I'm Sandra Palyugi. I'm an MET candidate at Boise State University. This is a video reflection of my EdTech portfolio. In it, I share my background and my experiences at EdTech at Boise State. It all started for me in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, born and raised. Matter of fact, I've been lucky enough to spend my whole life in Florida. It's just beautiful. Of course, I'm a lifelong Miami Dolphins fan and a Boston Red Sox fan. I have two beautiful daughters. This is Anna on the left and Jacqueline on the right. And two terrific granddaughters. This is Isabella, or Bella, and this is Alexia, or Lexi for short. And of course, my house elf, Dobby. My career as a graphic designer really took off at Scripps Treasure Coast newspapers over 17 years ago. Then print media began to wane. J.R.R. Tolkien once said, "Not all who wander are lost." So I decided to change careers and become a classroom teacher in 2011. My students love books, but they really become engaged when technology is applied. You can see there are my classroom computers. Well, I began searching for a program to help me learn how to enhance their learning experiences using technology. Specifically, my goal was to incorporate my experience as a graphic designer into my elementary classroom curriculum to make my lessons engaging and unforgettable. I began searching for the perfect tool to help me achieve my goal, and Boise State University's Masters of Educational Technology was the perfect solution. It combined all my skills, passions, and strengths. EdTech 502, probably the most meaningful course that I took. Without it, I don't know where I'd be. I use it all the time, every day. I started out pretty bad. I had never written code before, even as a graphic designer. I mean, look at these colors. Where did I get them from? It's disgusting. However, I improved. And project after project, I really started to grasp the strategies and all the amazing ideas on how to engage my students. You can really see here how my skills as a web designer are really starting to improve. This activity in EdTech 502 is a jigsaw activity that I use every year to teach the city of St. Augustine to my students for social studies. It highlights master groups with 4 different subjects, and they have to visit pre-selected websites that are safe and secure, where they can do their research and work collaboratively to build a PowerPoint, to showcase to their fellow students in the classroom, and to teach them all about St. Augustine, or at least their specific part of St. Augustine. This link here took the students to a site that features the Castillo de San Marcos and a virtual tour of that fort. They love this activity. Another artifact I'd like to showcase from EdTech 502 to talk about computer-based technologies and integrated technologies would be my virtual field trip. It was this particular assignment that we didn't have to use web pages that we had built from scratch. We could actually use pages that were free and accessible for us. So I built my default page. As you can see, it looks much, much better than what I had previously been using. And here's my virtual field trip of Paris. So I'm so super proud of this. I love showing it to my students, even though I really can't use it in my curriculum because, it's a field trip of Paris. But Paris is one of my favorite places, and I thought I'd really make it shine here. It really feels like you've been there after you went through here. So these are just Paris museums is what I focused on, and it's a mixed medium. So there is photographs, there are little French flags there that are icons that take you to the different museums. There's an interactive Google map that you could click on and see the different places that I've focused on in this particular project. Each one of the links will take you to a different museum, and in those museums there are different virtual tours featured that I've highlighted as well. Let me go past this one to the Musée d'Orsay so I can show you where it leads you to. Some of this is a little slow in loading because there are videos on the page. I love the inside of that clock. Okay, if I can scroll down a little. Here we go. Okay, there is the inside of the museum. And a little further down is a YouTube video that I've linked to the project so that the students can click on that and enjoy a short virtual tour of the inside of the museum. Let me click a little of it. Hopefully it plays quickly. There's captions for the particular museum. And there we go. The outside of the museum. Again, an interactive Google map. This project, I really think these students can, really wrap their brain around and feel like they've been there. I believe that this virtual field trip to the museums of Paris helps to showcase Standard 2 development. It says that candidates will be able to demonstrate the knowledge, skills, and dispositions to develop instructional materials and experiences using print, audiovisual, computer-based, and integrated technologies. In this case, the integrated technologies that I used were the different websites that the student can visit that had virtual tours, the Google Maps that were interactive, in case they wanted to grab a bite to eat while they were across the street from the museums. Here it shows a link to the Musée d'Orsay's virtual tours that were included in the museum package. I think the students will really enjoy this. The next thing that I'd like to showcase would be also from 502, Internet for Education, Internet for Educators, my final piece, which is my WebQuest. Now the WebQuest I used as an artifact for delivery system management. Here I'm showing you many different web pages that I built. Again, this was from Dreamweaver, but it was a free design package that I downloaded. But I did enhance the background with that different pieces of font that I did on my own, but I used their CSS style. So here you can see in a WebQuest there's student instructions, teacher instructions, and we had to build web pages for each item that you showcased. In this artifact, the standard calls for delivery system management. The delivery system management involves planning, monitoring, and controlling the method by which the distribution of instructional materials is organized. It is a combination of medium and a method of usage that is employed to present instructional information by the learner. So the learner is given a task in which they need to prove their objective, which, if you look at the process here, the literary genre WebQuest assignment task was for students to research the various genres and then write a fairy tale based on their own story map and analysis. This WebQuest uses the engagement of actually researching information on the internet instead of them researching it in the library or in a book. There's an assessment evaluation built in that I added a rubric for. There's a conclusion to wrap everything up. And there's a teacher page which explains the entire lesson, including the lesson. The teacher can just copy and paste right into their own lesson plans. And I use this every year to introduce my students to genres. It's very important in the scope and sequence for my fourth graders. The next artifacts that I'd like to show you were from my class 506 Graphic Design. This piece showcases the skill chunking, which comes from Standard 2, developing instructional materials and experiences using print. So the strategy was to chunk their knowledge. This piece here showcases the use of white space, the importance of white space. It's a checklist for students to use during their essay writing. And finally, the use of color was showcased in this poster on onomatopoeias and how to use them, with a big, large red and yellow boom. Almost looks 3D coming right off the page, and then the different examples of onomatopoeias. The final artifact that I'm choosing to show you is from my project-based learning class 542. In this project, students are asked to create a PowerPoint on the historic city of St. Augustine. So in which they are integrating social studies and college and career readiness. Here you'd see a flow chart that the instructor can use in teaching the students how to design a PowerPoint based on their level of knowledge. That actual flow chart was much more difficult than it looks to design. It encompasses all the standards, and here is an actual overview of the project, including an entire lesson plan for the project, which lasts for several weeks. Just wait a second while it catches up. This is the products and performances that the students will be expected to perform. It's a collaborative activity in which they will build a PowerPoint to present to the class. They will be evaluated on this project using several different types of summative and formative assessments, such as an exit pass, which is a daily strategy in which you can keep tabs on their learning just by asking them for a fact. Peer evaluations, which I really like. Gallery walkthroughs are usually pretty kind, and they're a lot kinder than you think they would be. Summative assessments, the actual project themselves, and of course a reflective piece is very important. Here's a page listing the resources needed, and also there is a project timeline with a complete comprehensive calendar that any instructor could follow. Even the students can have this in their notebooks. I've used this every year The state of Florida is their history is really important to the fourth grade students, and unfortunately our school doesn't allow for field trips because our students are pretty low income. So this type of project I used a lot. I chose this artifact to focus primarily on instructional systems design. Specifically, it addresses the ability of the instructor to employ the instructional systems design process to analyze, design, develop, and implement and evaluate instruction, or ADDIE. Where do I go from here? Well, in May 2014, I hope to graduate. I also look forward to using everything that I learned in EdTech in my classroom every day. I learned that technology is ever-changing and that I never can stop learning about it. I also learned that technology is the cornerstone and the launching point to everything that I teach. Thank you so much for watching my reflection.